This is Lake of the Woods. Disputed by Canada and the US in the 1800s, it's now home to some puzzling international boundaries. However, the real puzzle is navigating it. It's a watery maze of thousands of islands and countless miles of shoreline, with long exposures waiting to stir up trouble. But humans have long been drawn to it, and anglers, boaters, and cottagers today could call it a paradise. I was here to put its reputation to the test, and to see if it could be a paddler's paradise too. One guidebook describes it as one of Canada's most beautiful, unspoiled, wilderness-class lakes. Another says that it's a lake that justifiably boasts being one of the country's most beautiful. Praise like this set expectations high, but my experiment here would be far from expected, and I'd have to travel to the middle of it to discover the truth about Lake of the Woods. The truth that something was very wrong with this lake.
Lake of the Woods, we meet at last. Got a killer tailwind right now, and it's supposed to be tomorrow, so I better use it while I've got it, because I'm likely going to be fighting it the rest of the way. When the wind kicks up on a lake this big, it's going to be liable to some pretty rough conditions, some big swells, but thankfully lots of islands here to break it up. One thing I want to find out about this lake is whether you can find any peace and quiet, if there's any wilderness left to it. And I know it can get very boaty in the summer, but that's why I come here in the back half of October. Just saw the first one of the trip though. Motorboat counts as at 1. On a similar note, there are lots of parcels of private land on Lake of the Woods, and that might make finding campsites a little more difficult if a lot of the prime spots are taken on nice islands and whatnot. Sun was getting low, belly was rumbling, so here it is, camp number 1. I'm not going to get too picky. Beautiful shoreline here for cooking. Hammocking opportunities aren't the best, but it'll work. And yeah, it's ready for dinner and a cold one. Cheers, Lake of the Woods. There's actually a brewery at the north end of the lake called Lake of the Woods Brewing. And this is their blueberry ale. I drink it at home too, but had to have it on this trip, of course. Got the stick stove rocking, and after early rise, long drive, and getting in here by canoe, I am exhausted, so I'm really glad I have a simple dinner. Well, simple to prepare out here. Leftover Thanksgiving dinner, courtesy of my mother-in-law. Thanks, Barb. Put a little water in there so it doesn't burn. a Thanksgiving stew now. What a beautiful setting to eat a Thanksgiving dinner. And after this, I'm sure I'm gonna have a turkey coma and pass out hard. Lots to do tomorrow. Starting out day 2 with a big hearty breakfast, black bean and hash brown mix, spinach, cheese, green onion, sour cream, mustard, tomato, and wrap them up in a couple tortillas with a coffee. Look at those beauties. There's also a chili lime sauce on it. I'm going to wolf these down and then we'll have a look at the map. So here it is, Lake of the Woods in all its glory. I started there yesterday, got a little 13-kilometer dent into it. Camp 1 there, and I plan to continue around the All-No Peninsula all the way around and back to get to the heart of the lake, and hopefully the least developed. Along the edges I'm more likely to see development. In fact, Whitefish Bay, I can see on the topo, has quite a few structures on it, little building symbols, little black squares. So I expect this to be potentially the most developed part of the trip, and hopefully going to get more wild from here. The lake is shared between US and Canada. Most of it's in Canada, but from here down is the US, this big open bay. But there's also a little bit of Manitoba here, and a real oddity is this piece of the US, which is disconnected from the rest of the US. It's called the Northwest Angle, and it is really quite bizarre. So for a camper, there's not a lot of information about this lake. I've marked some X's there, which are pictograph sites from a Hap Wilson book, and petroglyphs here even, which I rarely get to see, so that'd be interesting. We'll be really hunting for those ones, but they'll be tough to find. These areas are huge, and there are lots of interesting points all over the lake, but in the interest of doing this in a reasonable time frame, I'm just sticking to the All-No Peninsula mostly. In addition to the nautical chart, I've also got this book, The Explorer's Guide to Lake of the Woods. And this will be helpful not so much for navigation, but for little tidbits of information and history. In the intro, it says that Lake of the Woods is a lake that justifiably boasts being one of the country's most beautiful. 55 miles east to west and 65 miles north to south. Lake of the Woods is Ontario's second largest freshwater lake, excluding the Great Lakes, and after Lake Nipigon, with almost 65,000 miles of shoreline. That is some misinformation that drives me crazy. It's all over. Anywhere you look about Lake of the Woods, they're always citing that stat. The Earth is 40,000 kilometers around, 65,000 miles. Let's say that's roughly 100,000 kilometers. So that's 2.5 times the circumference of Earth. So that alone should tell you that that's just wrong. But that stat is everywhere. It's crazy. I used to make maps for a living, and now I canoe lakes. I can tell you that's not accurate. I did look it up on my GIS software, and I didn't have the American side, but the Canadian shoreline side was 7,500 kilometers, which is still gigantic. And I think, including the American side, it's close to 10,000 kilometers of shoreline, so still very impressive. Anyway, an amazing, huge lake full of islands. According to the forecast, today is going to be my best travel day of the whole trip, so I want to get at least 30 kilometers in today past Rendezvous Point onto the north shore of the peninsula, and yeah, get the most out of the south wind. Gorgeous in here, island after island. Saw 2 fishing boats yesterday, and that's still it. Seeing the odd property, and there are some gems. Really beautiful little cabins, cottages. Passing by the Three Sisters Islands over there. That's the deepest area of the lake. 216 feet according to one source. I've seen another that says 310. It's weird that there could be such discrepancy in the readings there, along with the amount of shoreline on the lake. leaves me thinking that there's still a lot to be discovered about this lake, despite having such a long history. Tons of bald eagles here. One up in that pine, 2 more flying over there, and I must have seen at least 10 by now. About to start up through the channel, south of Channel Island, heading up here to Rendezvous Point, and hopefully a little further than that. So I've passed up a number of pictograph sites on the east side of Whitefish Bay. They were just too much of a detour, but coming up to the first one on my route, and the guidebook talks about indigenous inhabitants here, which dates back 8,000 years. And in the time since, the Laurels, Black Ducks, Selkirks, Cree, Sioux, and Ojibwe have all realized the richness of the lake and have made their homes here. The book says that there are nearly 24 rock paintings on this lake, with some of them known to be at least 2,000 years old. The book describes the pictographs, including the cross, a couple of handprints, a ship with a square sail, a serpent, but a lot of them have been worn down by time. Can't quite make out the rest. But of the handprints, it says that they were left as part of the shaman's ritual seeking of medicine and health for the people. There's a motorboat there going between those 2 islands. First one I've seen in action today, and only the 3rd so far. So if this is the most inhabited part, do pretty well. There are actually 3 of them there. I guess the count's up to 5 suddenly. They just zipped by, left a healthy wake, barely acknowledged me. It's weird. I don't know, some motorboats are really nice and friendly, some just don't want to engage. And number 6 just went by. No wave. That's okay. I'll find a friend somewhere. Can I find one friend on Lake of the Woods? I did it! I made a friend. I got a wave. Right at Rendezvous Point too, how fitting. It was an enthusiastic wave that they initiated to. That's nice. So I've seen the last 5 boats along this boating channel, and I'm eager to get away from that. I'm at Rendezvous Point, hoping to sneak down into here tonight. Number 8, 2 minutes later, and another wave. But this many motorboats on a paddling trip is my hell. So it's time to get out of here. Well, a perfect little island turned up, and I'm still by the boating channel, but I don't think there'll be many people coming by in the next hour and a bit of daylight. And I want to enjoy camp too. Yesterday got to camp and had to scramble, so today I want to enjoy a beer and enjoy a little daylight. Got another Lake of the Woods brew tonight. It's called Sultana Gold. Blonde ale, named after a gold mine on Sultana Island up near Canoe. It was started in the late 1800s and was closed down in the early 1900s, but it was a flourishing mine site during that time. 2 boats have passed since I got here, but not a big deal. Hopefully I'll find some seclusion later in the trip. This was worth stopping for. Perfect spot to hang right there. Little fire pit, some sticks, and this site is hardly used. Getting to this point with a tailwind is making the rest of the loop seem somewhat daunting, knowing that there's probably going to be a lot of headwinds. Days are short, and I'm hoping to do this in 7 days. But still, can't just hammer out everything. I would have gotten to the next bay that I was shooting for around dark, so that's no fun. Got some more Thanksgiving leftovers tonight. Pierogies. They did not appreciate being stuffed and thawed in the food barrel, and they've lost their pierogi shape, but I'm certain they're still going to have their delicious pierogi flavor. Some sour cream, green onions. That's heaven. And I've got a lakeside kolsch as well. Some nice can art. Fitting for today. And it is Eastern European night here on Lake of the Woods. I think kolsch is an Eastern European brew. Wow. Oh. Up in the moonlight for day 3. Suddenly it's day 3. And got some noun-call zones going. And then I gotta get going. Wind's already kicking up a little bit. And I gotta make some progress today. Dry suit halfway on this morning before I head out. Expecting rain today and a bit cooler temps. So yesterday I made it to the top of the peninsula, which was the minimum that I hoped. Today I want to carry across. I have no idea how far I'll get. There's Blueberry Inlet here, and Hap Wilson's map said that it has a good camping and it's secluded. Tempted to dip in there, it's just a little narrows that connects it. But I should probably make a bit more progress, so we'll see. Heading out as boat 16 passes. That number's getting a little high for my liking for this time of year. So hopefully once I turn south around the far side of the peninsula, then I'll start finding a bit of quiet. Canoe's still like 50 kilometers away, so I'm a bit surprised by the amount of traffic. The wind is slowing me down here, but it is manageable, still making progress. And I was just going through a little mental checklist. I used to have a scoring system for my trips based on 4 factors. Fishing, I don't think there's any question the fishing can be amazing on this lake. It's renowned for it, even if I don't have luck here. It's still good fishery. Scenery, it's been decent so far, good. Nothing's blown me away though. Seclusion, I would give that pretty much a 0 so far. I feel like there's a chance a motorboat's going to come by at any second. And wildlife, I have no expectations for wildlife on this trip. So, not a great scorecard for Lake of the Woods so far, but a long way left to go. There's a pretty broad stand of oaks on this island, which I rarely see. And my guidebook mentioned bur oaks in the area, so I'm assuming that's what these are. It said that they rarely grow more than 50 feet tall, but can live up to 400 years, so that could be pretty old. Otters. Love them. Oh! Whoa! Whoa! These motorboats, they'll never see the otters. Well, there's a start for the wildlife. 3 winters ago, I bought a snowmobile, my first gas-powered toy, and I hated it so much. It was just not me, and it was a pain mechanically, but more than anything, it was loud, so I didn't get peace and quiet, and I zipped down the trails, and I'm not seeing anything, so that's why I prefer to move slow. Canoe, on foot. Starting to get pretty messy out there whenever there's any open stretch. Blueberry Inlet is seeming like a good option right now. Here comes the rain. Well, I can't resist at least poking in the Blueberry Inlet. If I love it, then I might have to stay. We'll see. Actually, a little current here coming out of it. Found a good spot here, and I think I have to take it. It's a cool, drizzly day, headwind, so I think I'll just stay. This is the life. Well, the rain's been on and off this afternoon. Hopefully it's going to hold off while I try to make dinner. After a summer of long daylight hours, you forget how quickly days go when it gets to mid-fall. Anyway, got some nice fuel, dinner on the way. I've got a bit of a sore spot for badly built fire pits. It's so bad. But otherwise, this is a pretty cool site. And it is nice to have a bit of seclusion. I can still hear boat motors a little bit, but it feels different in here. Vibe's different. Something's in the water. Middle of the night. I think it's a moose. I can hear it grunting, breathing. Yeah, I can hear its heavy breathing. I hope it's not a bull. Oh geez, it's coming on shore. There's also a beaver. Oh, this is unnerving. There's the beaver splashing its tail again, but there's no way it was breathing that heavily. Oh man.
Maybe it was just a beaver after all. But it was breathing so loud, like, you wouldn't think you could hear a beaver breathe, like... Chilly morning out here for day 4. Feels good to have some coffee. I'm already fed, and I should be on the water around or even before sunrise. And that was quite a bit of excitement last night that beaver caused. I've seen hundreds of beavers. I've never heard one breathe loud as a moose, which breathes kind of like a horse. It's pretty distinctive, so. And in the rut, this time of year, a bull moose can be aggressive, potentially. Not likely, but still, it's an absolute bulldozer. So, I'm glad to have some light. This is more like it. Nice and calm too. Nice rock face here, and Blueberry Inlet has been my favorite part of the trip so far. I've only heard, actually, I think one boat last night, so that has been much appreciated. Morning. You guys going in?
Yeah.
Nice. Fishing or hunting?
Fishing.
Yeah. Is it good fishing in there?
Yeah.
Yeah? I just spent the night and wet a line too much, but...
Alright, on.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool. Alright, good luck.
Yeah, cool.
Literally the second I get out of Blueberry Inlet, there's a boat waiting there for me. But we had a chat. I made a friend on Lake of the Woods. More than just a friendly wave. So this trip has been a huge success. Back to the main lake. Ravens make the craziest sounds. I'm excited for today. Got the petroglyphs and pictographs, and looks like on the topo there might be some pretty nice scenery too, and beautiful conditions. Just added mink to the wildlife settings over there on the rocks, and I still don't expect any big wildlife. That's what I meant yesterday, but I'm not going home empty-handed. So I've arrived at the island where the petroglyphs are supposed to be. The map marks them right at the end of this island. It's like a cobbling of stones. So I'm going to consult it again. Yep. Shows it there. Small reef / island.
Okay, well, I'm gonna have to do some searching. I just went around the island, I can't find it. And I don't think I've actually seen a petroglyph before. So I really want to find it. It's turning out to be hard to get a win on this lake. Scoured the island for must have been an hour. Nothing. We got a win, folks. The map says it's on that island, and I kept my eye out and I found it. It's on a different one. And they're all over the place. I'll tread carefully here. Check this out. So here's some of those U shapes. Another one. And I wonder if any of these have been made more recently. There's the odd coin here, which I think is like a tribute. What is that? Tree? But here's the one that caught my eye from the boat. Pretty amazing. That one's so intricate. Some people have left bandanas, a hat. Unfortunately, I don't really have anything that wouldn't feel like litter, but there's my tribute. Remove some litter. Pretty interesting choice of location for all those petroglyphs. Just an unassuming hump of rock. Onto some pictographs now. Didn't see any sign of the pictographs there where they're marked on the map. And if I ever want to finish this loop, I gotta move on. Too bad. There's cliffs here on Cliff Island. All over the lake there's been this green stuff. I'm assuming is pollen. Fucking nasty looking here. It's Saturday, so I was worried the boat traffic was going to increase, but it hasn't been bad. This is boat 32 in total. I think I got a wave. Found them. The map was wrong yet again. And it's a pretty good little site. The one up top is supposed to be a paisk, meaning a bird of omen. Pretty interesting. It's quite amazing that the rock paintings can hold up for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And it says here in the guidebook, the red paint used for pictographs is a very common form of oxidized iron ore called hematite. When mixed with a liquid medium such as sturgeon oil or bear grease, it becomes the paint known as red ochre. Taking a quick break on this beach, making progress, but man, it feels slow. Still have so much left to go, and the forecast still is making it look like tomorrow is going to be basically a write-off. So for today, I've come from Blueberry Inlet across to Calendar Island now. And I'll see if I can get a little further today. French Narrows is the next leg of the trip, getting south. But of course tomorrow I've got that big south wind. On the topo map it looked like the number of buildings dropped off outside Whitefish Bay. And that's been the case. There have hardly been any cottages. But I just saw the first houseboat of the trip. Seems like a great way to enjoy this lake. That's gorgeous. Grouse up there. Picking buds off this birch, I guess. Hour and a half of daylight left now, so I'm looking for camp. It's been slim pickings lately though.
There's a decrepit cabin with, I think, a fan boat.
The best feeling ever when you think there's not going to be a good campsite and then something perfect turns up. Just a little cozy nook there and those white pine for the hammock and a beautiful view, sunset and sunrise view. And I thought I'd be camping in some nasty bush, so I'm happy and hungry. So here's camp 4. There's a fire pit here. Hasn't been used in a bit. We'll get the stick stove rocking up here. It's less firewood prep than an open fire, and it's a perfect cooking platform. And over here in this colorful woods is my digs. Pretty sweet. Not enough hours in the day right now. That was a full day, but I'm well positioned for the next leg. The French Narrows are just around the next corner there. So whenever the wind permits, I'm ready to go. Got a mint tea, freeze-dried meal, and then I'm hitting the sack. Good day though. Up at 4 a.m. for day 5. I was thinking of staying here all day with the headwind and doing a night paddle tonight, but the wind has come down a little in the forecast, so I'm just gonna pick away at it. Some good old garlic bread, chili. Haven't done actual garlic bread in a long time. And for the rest of the chili, I've got this sour cream. It's actually coconut sour cream, made from coconuts. And we tried it a while back and prefer it. It doesn't even taste like coconuts, just nice and creamy. This will be a nice big meal for the day ahead. Big halo around the moon this morning. So here's where I'm at the mouth of the French Portage Narrows. And it's about 17 kilometers through the Narrows, and then I'll start heading that way. But I've got another factor to consider now. Got a pretty big problem, which is that pollen isn't pollen. That's blue-green algae, which is toxic. I picked up a signal, and I looked it up. It does Lake of the Woods experience algae blooms, and started going down a rabbit hole. It's not good. And it looks like it gets much worse on the south side of the lake in Travers Bay, so that's where I'd be heading. I'm just past the halfway point, and I'm honestly considering going back now the way I came. I could do it much differently, but that way is better for the bloom, it looks like. And it actually peaks in mid-October, it says, which is really surprising. I don't know anything about algae blooms. Like, I've never experienced one before. I'm usually paddling pristine lakes, backcountry lakes. Never had to deal with it before. And yeah, last year was severe, and this year it looks like it could be pretty bad too. But I gotta make a decision. I could find a different route back through much of the route. But, made up my mind. I gotta go back. I want to find a different way to go back. There's so many islands and bays that, you know, there'll be other things to see. Obviously, it's really disappointing. My heart wants to go forward. But, yeah. Neurotoxins, that doesn't sound good. And if this is only like the weaker side of that effect, yeah. Okay, here we go. So I'll start off by going around the north side of Skeet Island, island hop here, and through Dead Broke Channel. Took the good morning to wake up at 4 a.m. I'm a little heartbroken. I feel like I just broke up with this trip. I've been looking forward to visiting this lake for years. But sometimes a breakup, you have heartbreak, but you have clarity on it too. So I guess I have that. Wow, the sunrise is making everything okay. As I was moving along the last couple of days, I was like, is this algae? Again, I've never seen it up close, I wouldn't know. And I was like, nah, it's pollen. I didn't want to believe it, but I'm glad I got the information when I did. I also looked up whether my water filter can capture that. The information I got is that it doesn't, so I've likely been consuming a fair amount of it already, and the potential for it to be 10 times worse on the other side of the lake. I'm feeling good about stopping here, turning around. Come 79 kilometers so far, end of day yesterday, and I've got at least that much to go back. South wind's starting to pick up, but I'm just about to get into a dead broke channel. Good timing, be nice and protected in there. This is turning out to be one of the nicer paddles of the trip so far. So turning around is paying dividends. Very cool rocks there, stacked up like Jenga blocks. Digging it. Couple more swans going by. Bird life's been good on this trip, more than I expected. The eagles are so frequent now that I'm rarely even filming them. Beautiful day out here on Lake of the Woods, and I'm making good progress. This wind that I would have been fighting is kind of going this way, I'm going that way, so it's more or less helping me. And I'm going to ride it as far as I can today. Crossing here, picking up, that's for sure. Gotta watch out for boats. Main concern. I'm well past Blueberry Inlet now, at least 20 kilometers covered today. And there's still tons of algae here. And maybe there was a significant amount in Whitefish Bay, I just wasn't thinking about it as much, but I don't know if I'll be able to escape it. Grossing me out now. Yeah, it's pretty bad here. Chunks of it. Just came through here, brief crossing, and a boat came whizzing through there. I only heard it 30 seconds before, like I couldn't go back or forward either way. Whizzed right by me. You know, they saw me at least. I wasn't scared they were gonna hit me, but anyway, it's not peaceful. It's boat 45 for the trip so far. So I was up at 4, it's almost 5 o'clock now, and I'm coming up to campsite number 2, that perfect little island, my favorite campsite so far, and I'm happy to take it again. Yep, very happy to be back here, and I forgot the best part of all. I'm free of the algae. Back in the clear, good Canadian clear water. And I'm gonna give this filter a good back flush. I've got some filtered water in the reservoir, and squeeze it through, run it backwards against how it normally flows with gravity, and flush out some of those neurotoxins. And to make up for the neurotoxins that I won't be consuming from my water, I'll just have to get them from my scotch. Last time I was here, it was Eastern European night. Tonight, it's South Asian night. Pad Thai. If it looks fancy, it's basically the craft dinner of pad thais. It's just like a little meal kit with some green onion, sriracha. It's good. I like craft dinner. What do you say about craft dinner? So I'm here just on the other side of Rendezvous Point, and I've got at least 2 days of travel to get back. Tomorrow is supposed to be a light headwind, but should still be able to make progress. The following day is supposed to be a stormy west wind day, and we'll see what I can do that day. There are some pictographs on this side, which I'd like to see, but that stormy day is probably going to get this all in a mess. So I'm thinking I'll stick down to this side around Bell Island and sneak around there. Dreamy start to day 6. Steaming lake, steaming mug, steaming outboard motors, roaring across the lake. Well, not so much that part, but this is just amazing. Beautiful little place. Flew by Rendezvous Point, and I'm heading south. Wind is out of the east-southeast today, but it's not hindering me too much. We're going past Hayter Peninsula next, and then south to Bell Island. Not much to report here for day 6. I'm kind of just putting my head down. And I've picked up a bit of signal as a motorboat goes by. And of course my phone's recommending stuff to me about algae blooms now. And it says cyanotoxins can be deadly if they're consumed by dogs and other animals. And it says in humans, exposure can lead to symptoms ranging from rashes, eye irritation, headaches, fever, vomiting, diarrhea, and liver or kidney damage. And then later it talks about big bloom in 2014 affecting the water supply for Toledo, Ohio, where the residents there couldn't drink their tap water for 2 days. So pretty serious stuff. Apparently the algae blooms have been an issue on Lake of the Woods since the 1980s, and they have reduced the amount of phosphorus coming into the lake substantially, but there's still like a big deposit of phosphorus in the lake that's going to take a long time to sort itself out. Well, that was another long day of paddling, and I'm reusing camp number 1 as well. It's a good camp, I know it's here, and it's in a cluster of islands kind of tucked away. And that illusion of seclusion on this lake is worth a lot to me right now, so here I am. It's also got a nice sheltered spot for the hammock, which is good because the weather's supposed to be pretty nasty tomorrow morning. So I've only got a 3 or 4 hour paddle back to the car tomorrow, and that's probably a good thing with the weather that's coming. Cold and rain, and it's a shame about the algae bloom having to turn around, but I tried to resuscitate the trip and it just didn't really happen, so my sample size on Lake of the Woods, this experiment, is fairly small, but what I would say about it is that it's an incredible water body. Thousands of islands, thousands of kilometers of shoreline, tons of pictographs and petroglyphs, and the lake is certainly a paradise for boaters. But the flip side of that coin, for a wilderness paddler, it doesn't make it a paradise. All the boats buzzing by all the time, all the buildings, algae blooms, cell phone signal in and out. I know that's not the lake's fault, but when I'm on wilderness trips, I love being disconnected. It's so liberating. And I know you could say just don't look at your phone, but we're all pretty addicted to our phones. So that's like having an open beer in front of an alcoholic and saying just don't drink it. It is a distraction, takes you out of the moment. And with all the disruptions here, I just didn't get into that Zen state that I often find myself in on trips. And it's meditative and therapeutic, and it's what I really crave out here. The seclusion is a huge part of that too, and that was really absent here. I find it really hard to imagine finding a true sense of seclusion on this lake. And there were places I go where I know I could just scream at the top of my lungs and no one would hear me. And even if I want internet on my phone, I can't have it. And all I have is what's with me. And I'm in the here and now in those moments, which is generally what I'm seeking on these trips. So the honest truth is that I just didn't get a whole lot out of this trip personally compared to my typical trips. And it wasn't the sort of wilderness that I seek, if you can still call this a wilderness at all. But as a silver lining, hopefully it'll shed some light on this whole algae bloom situation. We've had it this summer on our local lake that's near our house, and my dad and his wife, they get it on their property where they live down on Lake Ontario. Lake Erie is absolutely plagued by it, and I saw a headline the other day that Lake Superior, deep and cold, even it's not immune to the algae blooms, and it was recorded on the lake there for the first time. So we gotta take care of our waterways. We're terrestrial creatures and we don't have to live in the water, so at most these issues may seem like a nuisance. Oh, we can't go swimming during the bloom, but most people can just go back to their cottage or their house, and it's not a huge deal. But for me, I wasn't comfortable drinking the water and I had no other alternative. So yeah, hopefully it raises some awareness about the issue. And to end on a message of hope, my guidebook, it talked about the eagles here and how they were spraying DDT back in the day all over the place, and the eagles, their population was just plummeting. But since they stopped doing that, the eagles here were everywhere. I must have seen 50 easily, and hopefully it's the same with the phosphorus and the algae blooms. If we get that under control, there's always hope. Nature is so resilient. It can bounce back. Humanity, we're always pushing nature to its limits, and then once it breaks, then we put a band-aid on it. I can only hope that someday we get out of that cycle, but we're deep in that cycle these days. So anyway, there's hope. I'm sure the lake will rebound with good management, and hopefully all the people working on that are getting all the funding and support that they need. Dinner on the way, and a nice close to the last full day here. That is pink. It's an early start to day 7. Woke up at 3 and eventually just decided to get up. Had a quick breakfast under the tarp, and I'm pretty much ready to go here. Got to pack up before the rain too, so that was hard to resist. On my way. I'm just missing the storm system so far. I checked the radar, and where I was 2 days ago is right in the firing line. But I'm dry. Love it. 20 seconds later, starts to rain. So it turns out you can find solitude on this lake. You just gotta come out in the pouring rain. Haven't seen one boat this morning. Boat count's up to 66 so far though. In the home stretch at last here. What I'll remember from Lake of the Woods is the rock art, that beaver in the middle of the night that made me ready to fight for my life. The Sasquatchers are gonna have a field day with that one. The algae, unfortunately, and I still feel like I have unfinished business with this lake. Maybe I'll come back for the south side someday. Try and find that magic that I missed here.